Hello, innovators. I'm Todd Weyandt, and welcome to the Bridging the Gap podcast, sponsored by Applied Software. You're invited to join our MEP and construction innovation adventure with a mission to propel this great industry forward. I am excited to welcome back the CEO of BIM Designs, Inc. Mark Oden joined us back on episode 12 in our Burning Man and BIM episode. Welcome back to the show, Mark. Excited to bring you back on and chat more.
I'm so excited to be here, Todd. Thank you for having me. And also congratulations to you and to ASTI for winning Construction Podcast of the Year by Construction Junkie. You must be very proud of your team.
Thank you. Yeah, it was a very exciting win for us. It's pretty incredible on a very humbling experience for being our first year out, and very unexpected to be able to go up against, I listened, there was 11 other nominations, and I listened to pretty much all those podcasts too. I get inspired by them too. So it was really cool. Just, everybody says it's a pleasure to be nominated. It really was a pleasure to be nominated in our first year. Did not expect to win in the end, but very grateful for all those who listened and voted. And really thanks to you. I mean, a large credit goes to all of our amazing guests that we've had on. You guys make the show. So thanks for coming on and being willing.
Of course. And I always love your humbleness, and I always love your passion and speaking with you about your passion for podcasts. So this is very well deserved, and kudos to you and your team for that, Todd.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. It's definitely a team effort. So Mark, wondering if you could give just kind of a quick recap on your story and BIM Designs and kind of what you've been up to catch our new listeners up that maybe haven't heard the first episode that you were on.
Yeah, thank you so much, Todd. So in the context of Burning Man, that's actually evolved quite significantly in this new world, and we are actually partnering with one of the new virtual platforms that's working very closely with the Burning Man organization called Infinite Playa, and we will be working with them to help bring artists models or concepts or renderings into their three-dimensional worlds, which will be rendered on both your computer and some amount of virtual reality elements. And we've been working very closely with my close friend Sharon, as you mentioned earlier, and in this whole transition as Burning Man transitions. And that's just a creative outlet for us. As far as BIM Designs goes, we're an agile BIM detailing, modeling, consulting, and coordination service provider. So we work closely with architecture, engineering, and construction contractors and developers that require experienced journeyman detailers and engineers for mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and fire protection modeling. We also provide laser scanning and other VDC services. We're signatory with 18 different UA locals, UA and SMART unions in multiple different states.
Oh, wow. Nice. That's a lot going on there. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for that, Tom.
Mark, wondering if you can kind of unpack any other ways that firms might be able to have a smoother transition to prefab.
Yeah, absolutely, Todd. So we actually really see a major potential opportunity for Applied Software owned software called Evolve. It's a spooling software that feeds into the prefab process. So it's actually that bridge between the BIM modeling and the prefab. So I would see a huge, or I would anticipate a huge uptick in the need for that type of software. Kudos to ASTI for thinking ahead on that.
Yeah, thanks. We definitely have seen a lot of interest recently around our Evolve products, and both on the mechanical and the electrical front during all this, because it does really help create such a smooth transition into the digitization and really entering into the world of prefab. So yeah, thanks for the call out there.
For sure, yeah. And other software that we've seen majorly help us as an organization, for example, is Microsoft Teams. Really happy with the ability of that program to bring all of our teams together, both asynchronously and synchronously. So we really see a lot of this, new age kind of Silicon Valley software really coming into construction and helping it out.
Yeah, I think Teams it's a pretty powerful tool. We use it internally as well too. So to have that ability to all collaborate and work in the same space that's awesome. That comes in handy.
It's the pre-construction process that's becoming more and more important in today's world. In the context of Burning Man, we have had a lot of developments actually. Sharon's been very hard at work in virtualizing her art installation and her story that she's trying to build. Burning Man itself has gone completely virtual, so they're going to have a very big announcement come August and September with many different virtual platforms that people can participate in.
Hmm.
And we're starting to partner with one of those platforms named Infinite Playa. We will be working very closely with artists to 3D render their models into that virtual space.
Oh,
So
nice.
Burning Man itself is evolving, and we're happy to be working with them and evolve as well.
Yeah, that's really cool. Of the kind of the next evolution of Burning Man and all of your involvement there. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's a
Uh,
fun creative outlet for all of us here at BIM Designs.
oh, I bet. And you guys are really on the leading edge of innovative workflows and practices. I think across the board. So that it's always cool to see you guys do your thing out in different places that you don't naturally think. It's not uh, naturally what you think for the construction industry, and that's what I love about what you guys are doing there. I think it's really cool.
Well, thank you for saying that, Todd. I really appreciate it. We do consider ourselves a tech-first construction company. So we want to bring technology into the industry while still honoring the construction industry itself. And I really see a lot of opportunities to do that, especially in this new world.
Yeah. So you mentioned the new world, and that's where I'd really love to sit most of our conversation with is, there's so much disruption, so much change has occurred over the last several months since last we spoke in Atlanta. Just kind of quickly, on a high level, what's been the biggest part of the disruption for you all?
Well, for us as a firm, we were actually already a work remote company, and we're seeing that transition being forced upon everybody in the world and in the country.
Mm,
But we were already that as a tech first company, we decided that we would have a remote workforce. So interestingly enough, what may have been disruptive for most was least disruptive for us. We didn't even miss a beat because our employees were already working at home,
uh-huh.
already safe, socially distancing at their house. So all of those standards, processes, and procedures already existed. I would say what would be most disruptive for us is that it created longer meeting cycles, longer meeting times, and we had to look at how do we enable everybody to take that break in between meetings?
Yeah.
How do we enable a community within the organization? How do we help our employees really address self-care? Because during this new world where everybody's having to adapt new policies and a new way to approach the world, a new way to enter the world. A lot of restaurants, bars, and relaxation spas, etc., shutting down. How do you find your new center?
Uh, so you used the line tech first company a couple times. You want to take a minute and kind of unpack what do you mean by it?
Sure. Yeah. My background is I spent 10 years in the tech industry, Silicon Valley, mostly at Cisco Systems. So I had a full career there, and I'm very grateful for everything I learned at Cisco. And it really taught me. Cisco is a Fortune 500 company with people, employees all around the world. So
Sure.
10, 15 years ago, we were all using video. We were all using different methods of video, whether it be WebEx or a device on your desk that is a video camera. So it became very natural for me a long time ago to collaborate internationally and nationally
Uh-huh.
through video conferencing. And so, and through that, living in Silicon Valley, it's always cutting edge first. So you're always very excited to see what startup is out there. What problem are they solving? What are they fixing? How can I introduce this into my workforce? How can I make things much more efficient, productive, and collaborative at the same time? So
Yeah.
we actually are looking at different software solutions that we might be able to produce in the market. And right now we're going through market research with our existing clients to see where do they find the gaps in managing the pre-construction process. And we're very excited about that.
Yeah. That's really cool. So, this is a slight detour, I guess, but I'm curious. Well, what from the tech world, what brought you into construction? What was the big appeal of coming into construction? It's construction tends to have the reputation. I don't think it's a fair reputation, but it has a reputation that it's not a tech forward industry. So what was the big appeal?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking that. And while I might agree with you, it's very important that we honor the existing construction market. There's so many experienced architects and engineers, detailers, journeymen that are out there. that are looking to make that leap, looking to make the leap into technology.
Oh,
And it's
sure.
the, and I feel it's the risk reduction, the management side that is trying to say, hey, it's very difficult for us to adopt this or transition to this new technology because what we have works, and what we have, we know we can manage the profit and the margin
Mhm.
for that. Me into construction is that I bought a house in San Francisco. I co-bought it with a co-owner, Tim, and we decided to renovate the top unit. So actually at that time, I left Cisco. I took some time off. I took a sabbatical down in South America. Really just came in tune with myself and what I wanted for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And part of that was that I really recognized that I was a businessman, and I really wanted to find opportunities and help the world be a better, more collaborative place, but in a space that I had the ability to grow and learn, and to be more true to myself. And through going through becoming the general contractor of this renovation, I learned a tremendous amount about the possible personal and professional growth that I have through the construction space.
Hmm.
And it was through almost a year of dedicated work on that project that I started to build a network in the construction industry, and eventually ended up buying this company because I saw such an amazing vision and opportunity to help this industry grow.
How have you seen others throughout the industry kind of adapt to this new normal and everything digital?
Absolutely. We've seen a tremendous amount, much more of online marketing, conferences shifting to virtual, as MEP Force is shifting to virtual, for example, Burning Man
Sure.
shifting to virtual. We see a huge drive for data. We really want to understand, everybody wants to understand, hey, how productive is the team? How do we measure productivity? How do
Hmm.
we measure interactivity between our team, between our clients? How do we demonstrate the success, even though we're all virtual? I think there's a big drive for that right now. There's a lot of interest in adopting BIM and adopting building information modeling and bringing those savings and reduced risks to their organization. So companies that may have been a little bit tentative or sensitive to bringing that new technology, just as we were talking about before, are starting to realize the benefits of that pre-construction play. Much stronger interest and acceptance in remote workers, and a transition in the knowledge worker. The knowledge worker may or may not become much more of a gig economy, where they're sort of helping out different companies in the comfort of their own home. They're providing their knowledge as best as they can, and their expertise as best as they can to the different entities that need them. So there's, I
Hmm.
think, going to be a lot more of a services play and gig economy play in that sense in the future.
Yeah, interesting. So kind of circling back on the prefab side, why should firms start prefabbing in this time? Why is this a good time to do it? Um, uh, and then how do they really kind of go about that? What's a starting point for them?
Yeah, great question. If a company hasn't yet invested in prefab, it is a fairly large investment because you need the physical space and you need the machinery.
Sure.
So $1 to $3 million just to get started in that. If you invest in that, if a larger contractor invests in that for their organization, it will allow them to bring their field journeymen and foremen out of the field, create more space in the field, and bring them into the shop, and effectively take the output of what comes out of BIM designs or BIM modeling, the spools, etc., and pre-cut, so they would be able to pre-order everything that they would need, and then pre-cut that to length, and then spool it, actually physically spool it together, drop it off at the job site, and you could actually have that maybe at night, drop it off at the job site or whenever nobody
Hmm.
else is around, just to create that distance. And then the next morning, when the journeyman comes in, he has his instruction set, he has his spool sheets, his shop drawings, and his spooled material right there for him, and maybe with only one other helper, do a lot more work than he may have been able to do without prefabbing the equipment.
Yeah. So the stats around prefabbing are pretty crazy of how big a benefit and bang for your buck that you get. I've seen stats of 80% reduction in construction waste and um, 20 to 50% in scheduling improvements. And do you see people latching on to prefab more, or do you see more of a hesitancy in this moment?
Well, right now personally, we've seen a major uptick in the interest in BIM, which
Yeah.
also indicates an interest in prefab, because they go hand in hand, really. So we're very close to doubling just coming out of phase one of COVID,
Oh, wow.
in anticipation of helping the market with their
Yeah.
needs. So we're seeing major investment in research centers and hospitals that we're helping participate in.
Sure.
And we're seeing a massive drive towards that pre-construction. So I think all of pre-construction is going to be, could potentially be positively impacted by phase one of COVID and the future.
What do you see, speaking of the future, what do you see as the kind of the future state of the industry coming out if we're looking at like a year out from now? Where's construction going to be?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more in the pre-design, the planning phase. We're going to see a lot more thought put into all of the elements of construction before we actually pour concrete. I think there's a lot of in the past. It's been a lot easier just to say, hey, we'll make that decision on site. Let's just cut it to this, and we'll cut it down on site. Let's just take a lot of shortcuts, whether that be on schedule or whether that be on the design or whether that be on the actual prefab portion. And everything will be, fixed on site. And I think that will still be necessary. There will still be elements that need to be fixed on site, and the expertise needs to be there. However, I think there will be a drive to bring all of that a lot of that thought forward into the planning process. That's what I would say would be a big change. Another one would be a different utilization for space. How are malls going to be used in the future? Are malls going to be more restaurant spaces that have tables wider apart rather than cramming as many tables into a tight space as possible? Maybe there's less retail shops, and the restaurants take over those retail shops to have a more of an experience type of like Rainforest Cafe, for example, if you remember that, right? So maybe there'll be a little bit more of that experience it takes more volume, but it allows everybody to sort of enjoy the comfort and safety of a restaurant and the space between different tables, as an example. I think there's going to be new industry regulations and codes, code enforcement that will, change occupancy rates, change, how many bathrooms you need, or how many stalls you have to have, or how many cubicles you can have close to each other. I think there will be different regulations all around that that will create new opportunities for construction, for tenant improvement, and will also create brand new construction opportunities. I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of innovation in the architecture space. How do we help people feel safe outside of their home is going to be a real big question that I feel the construction industry can be a huge part in answering.
I think it's a really interesting thought experiment on. I agree that probably some retail spaces will unfortunately kind of go away, and the restaurants may take over that space. But also on the office front, the trend was such a hard swing to open office environments and tear down all the walls and have nothing in between anybody. Well, in this world, that's not, nobody wants to sit in an office space that you're sitting 2 feet away from somebody else, staring you right in the face. So, what does that look like? How do we go into all these office buildings and revamp? And now offices are going to need even more space so that they can spread their people out, because we've just spent the last couple of years putting people in as many people in a space as we possibly can. This is reversing that trend hard and fast.
Well, I had the privilege of working in a cubicle for almost 10 years, and I gotta say I much prefer the open environment. So maybe there will be the glass shields that we're seeing, right? So maybe there'll be a little bit more of like a combination or a merge of those two environments. Maybe it's still an open space, but people sit further away from each other, so they can still have jokes or throw the flying monkey or whatever, all those types of things. But kind of, we will have to merge all of that. Plus, there's how many companies and how many businesses, talking about percentages and stats, will decide, hey, we're just going to have nearly 100% remote workforce. Yep. And where will those operating costs of traditional running an office go? Will it go like us? What we're trying to do is put that money into running an office, into supporting our employees, and to having these self-care programs, for example, into encouraging them to spend time with their family and spend time with their kids. So I'm hopeful that as office space changes and maybe potentially reduces, the employee will benefit out of it and will live a better life. We've already heard that employees love that they don't have a commute, they don't have to deal with traffic. So just traffic itself is stressful, right? So they've had a stress reduction in their life, and already their quality of life is better. Yeah. So now how does a company continue to consistently invest in that quality of life? We've also heard of some companies that are being fairly strict and want to remain an at office non-remote workforce. And there's varying results with that. There's some people that are highly productive when they go to the office and they need that social interaction. And there's some type of employees that prefer to have their own space, their own environment, be home, have that family time before they go to work, have that family time afterwards without dealing with the stress of travel. So I think you will start to see these kind of two camps of either companies or two camps of employee bases, and they'll all sort of naturally find each other. I don't think that any one idea is out entirely. I just think you're going to see a permutation of it all.
Do you think it's going to be too hard to put the genie back in the bottle, in the sense of the people that have gotten the taste of remote working? Can you really expect those people to come back in the office, especially if they've proven that they can be just as productive or even maybe more productive at home? How do you put that genie back in if the company says, you know what, everything's safe now, we actually want people back in the office?
Yeah, if a company makes that choice, if I were to make that choice, I would make it a smooth transition. I would say, hey, let's do it one day a week. We're all coming to the office. We're going to have a team activity, a team building. Next month we'll do 2 days, right? And we just slowly transition back, because going into COVID was such a shock for so many people on the both on the personal and professional side of things.
Sure.
That it would be a lot smoother, a lot healthier to sort of transition back. I think it's completely possible, and I think there will be a new normal, and that new normal will consist of people flying again, people traveling again, people coming to the office for meetings, or sales meetings remotely or physically in person, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's all possible, but I do think if a company makes a hardline decision of saying, hey, we're going to be 100% back in the office, no ifs, ands, or buts, and no transition, I think it'll be a shock for some people, and and some people will decide, okay, I will bear through that shock and I'll get back into what my new normal is, or let me see if there's other opportunities out there for me that fit my new work style and my new patterns. Yeah, and that's actually what's been really fun, honestly, about this experience is, with a lot of this, lockdown and stay at home, you get a lot more time with yourself, right? And so you start to understand who are you, and what helps you feel the safest, and what helps you feel the most self-care for yourself, what helps you bring that, right? Every individual has now had to answer that without so much external stimuli.
Yeah.
And so that, like I said, that transition has been a shock, but the people who have been most successful at making that transition are adopting this new world and this new mentality. It really is a shock when you can't go out to eat anymore, or you can't, you feel like you can't go out and have a picnic, but you can, right? Like, why not just go have a picnic and watch the sunset? Like, you should be able to feel comfortable in doing that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a tough mental hill to get over for some. I have 3 kids, 4 and under at home. So things can get kind of loud and chaotic when I'm down working, but it's been really helpful. Of like, I can allow myself 15 minutes to go up and play with them for a couple minutes, or read them a book before nap time, and then come back down and do work, because I would have gotten up and, talked to different people if I was in the office and socialized that way. So I think it's giving yourself the freedom to be able to take those breaks, and that you need those mental checks. I notice on days when I'm just in front of the computer for all day long, and I haven't gotten up and moved, I'm a lot less pleasant to be around. So it's important to take those breaks and give yourself that kind of mental freedom.
It's so important, and that's why it's increasingly important to bring those meeting times. Standard is 60 minutes, but if you bring that down to 50, even if it's a virtual meeting, that gives people 10 minutes to transition. That gives people 10 minutes to go up and talk to their kids, play with their kids, get coffee, whatever it is. Especially with kids, I've noticed the home work-life balance can be kind of difficult, because I've seen employees in the middle of a meeting, and their kid, 6 years old, walks in the door, just wants to talk to their dad, just wants to spend time with their dad. And I always do my best to encourage them, hey, let's just pause the meeting, like, have that moment with your kid, because that's what they're looking for right now. Honestly, I think it's a great opportunity for us to all reset, for us to all hit the reset button. What were we doing 12 months ago, and how quickly were we operating? How many times were we taking flights? How many times were we on the road driving somewhere? How many times did we think we had to go somewhere to have a vacation? right?
Right.
The vacation is within ourselves, right? So I think that's the real fun part of what we're going through. It's obviously very, very difficult, and we need to honor that. And we've all had to implement brand new processes and brand new standards. We even took the time during COVID to really take a step back and say, how do we operationally improve across the front? So we brought standard operating procedures. You know, every single department has now been working on that. So it really gave us an opportunity to kind of slow ourselves down, right? Hit that reset button not only personally but at the office. And how do we slow ourselves down? How do we prepare for this next stage of growth that's coming out after COVID?
Yeah.
So it's provided that opportunity to us as well.
So to do I love that. To do a callback here, back to your first episode. Sharon had a quote, and I'm probably going to butcher it right now, but she said something along the lines of "There's beauty in the wander," and to allow yourself the space to just kind of figure it out, and not have to be so rigid on like I have to get this figured out right now in this moment, or else it's all lost. And you know, and I think I've kind of come back to that a lot throughout COVID. Of there's beauty in the wander. We don't know what we don't know, and we don't know a lot of things that we think we know right now. And so we're all figuring this out. We're all kind of wandering around together. And so to take the time to think that that's okay, and then allow that space for you to figure things out. And I think it's great that you guys are, you know, taking the time to create those greater efficiencies and really hone in on those operating procedures and everything. That's awesome. How do people get in touch with you or with BIM Designs?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, I'm Mark Oden. I'm the CEO of BIM Designs. If you need anything at all, feel free to reach out to me at moden@bimdesigns.net. Also like to make a plug for potentially a future podcast with you, but our BIM Genesis product that we announced when COVID arose, we announced, we basically took our streamlined ability to build assembly line computers that we would ship to our employees that would work from home already. So a week after everything shut down, we launched the ability to help our market and to support our market, whether it be other contractors or other competitors or anyone else that wants to build a BIM department. We have an all-in-one product stack that we would ship, including accessories and VR components that would be pre-tested, pre-packaged, and pre-installed actually with ASTI software. So we would send that to anyone who's interested. We have that all pre-catered, and it comes with IT support on top of it. So that's our Genesis product line.
That's awesome. And, good on you guys for being able to respond quickly to seeing the need and then reacting to it. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for that.
Yeah, well, I would love to chat more about that for sure. Well, thanks so much for joining the show, Mark. Always a pleasure to circle up and to chat with you.
Yeah, thank you, Todd. I'm always happy to be here, and I love what you're doing with this program. Thank you to you, Alyssa, and the rest of the team.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate it. And thank you to all those listening. If you are interested in learning more, you can visit our sponsors, Applied Software, at asti.com for more information. You can listen anytime to this podcast by simply going to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, be sure to check out our website, bridgingthegappod.com. Until next time, I'm Todd Weyandt, thanking you for joining us on the Bridging the Gap podcast. Keep innovating.